And Dizzy. Who else? And School Days. Lots of good stuff on this album. Ooh Shooby Dooby. Well, we heard Hubie Blake and the Stars and Stripes Forever. We'll send that one out to Ron Reagan for a quick recovery, because I don't like George Bush poking around my business. And Colin and Caro, tape Somebody Laid on Me, guy all composed for and played by a player piano. And then we heard Adam Bakovitz. We kind of agreed. And a pretty little song called Alice in Wonderland. And we have as our guest today, Charlie Mosler. He's a poet I always catch when he's least expecting it. No, I always catch him when he's out there reading, and unfortunately he reads quite a bit down in the area where I live. But what does this say? What does this could possibly say about you, except that you've read in a whole bunch of places like Drew University, Kane. You've done the circuit. And you've also organized, we know that you've also organized a couple of readings out in western New Jersey that are still going. And that you've got a reading coming up, when is it, Tuesday? Tuesday night. Yeah, you can tell me, your mic's on.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
The YMHA in West Orange.
Okay, what, I just had the PSA for that. And now I can't find it. Well, okay.
Okay, would you want me to do it?
Yeah, let's hear about that. Since I can't tell it, you're going to have to tell it.
I'm reading with Penny Harder at the YMHA of Metropolitan New Jersey at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, and that's at 760 Northfield Avenue in West Orange.
Right, okay. And there's a phone number there. It's 201-736-3200 for information. And Penny's also a good friend. So that ought to be good. A good reading.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And you got another one. You said you got another reading.
The following Wednesday at another YMHA up in Wayne.
Oh, I know that one. I couldn't tell you where it is. Christine used to work there, our friend Christine. We know that one. So what are you going to do? Got a couple of... We're just going to do a couple of sets of stuff. So you want to roll?
Sure.
Okay, let's hear a few things. This is Charlie Mosler.
Magic. The magician woke up on a Friday morning in a bare room with nothing but a pile of stale Tuesdays in the corner. And the only music in the place was the wind swinging empty hangers in the closet. He didn't bother looking out the window, because in that town they turn off the weather for the month of November so they can afford snow for Christmas. And he would have gone back to sleep, except what woke him up was finding his favorite dream had a crack in it. And if that wasn't bad enough, the expression on the face of his watch would have stopped anyone. Wristwatches don't like being looked at before 7 a.m. any more than you do. There wasn't any point in calling anybody up, because all his friends would have been asleep. And anyway, most of them tended to look like people waiting for buses until long after sunset. So he went down to the coffee shop and had breakfast with a newspaper folded in front of him, while he wondered what you'd do with a stale pile of Tuesdays. Magic. Otherwise, you're just another ribbon clerk. Sunday afternoon. I got lost walking around downtown, and everything was closed and quiet. And they were getting ready to put up a big Sunday sunset with all the colors. And there was a crew on the corner with ladders taking down the old sky with paint scrapers, and Well, it just looked like any other job. And the boss was worried that maybe one corner was going to curl up a little, and one of the union guys said, "Don't worry about it, nobody'll notice," and like that, and "What are you looking at?" "I was wondering about the weather tomorrow." "Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Stick with what you see in the papers. All the weather reports come true, if you wait long enough." Making it. Some of the smart ones bought a set of cheap answers, thick as a phone book, before they were out of their teens. Now a set like that will probably last you half your life, which, unfortunately, leaves some problems. This is a genuine New York musician poem. Another New York note. Outside the apartment window there were doves, and there was a bird feeder. And the doves kept coming down and snapping their wings in each other's faces and chasing each other away. I know what you think about doves, but they still have a living to make, same as anybody else in the city. Low comedy. So there he is, going down Bleecker Street between 1 and 2 in the morning, checking out last night's garbage. And what he's doing, every few yards, is picking up empty promises and turning them around in his hands and looking at them very hard. And the reason you know he's crazy, and you aren't, is that you only grab onto empty promises while they're still fresh and smell good. And you only get around to looking at them very hard and turning them upside down and every other way a long time afterward. And when you do, you have enough sense to hope there isn't anybody watching. Kind of a Bleecker Street story. Somebody was walking along late at night carrying a typewriter. Somebody else was walking towards him. The guy with the typewriter asked him what time it was. No answer. The guy with the typewriter asked him again. No answer. So he said, "All right, if you won't tell me what time it is, I don't want the damn typewriter." Threw it down and walked away. Kind of a Bleecker Street story. Intersection. I saw a man crawling across 7th Avenue at 11th and Greenwich at night in the heavy rain in the beginning of March. The hospital was right there on the corner behind him. Walking on McDougal, between Bleecker and Houston, after Saturday night and before Sunday morning. Bright lights, an ambulance, 2 police cars, and people standing around. Somebody says it was a fight over a bar stool, which means, I guess, you can forget about it. Entitlements. Dear Sir, there's a floodlit doorway south of 30th on 8th Avenue. There's a man in a shiny green jacket sleeping on his side in the light. There is a bright aluminum wheelchair on the sidewalk close to him. It's been trying to rain. I don't have any questions. I just wonder. I just wonder. For the record, I saw people sleeping on the benches at the south end of Washington Square. I saw a rat wandering down the sidewalk, sniffing. It wasn't far from the garbage. It wasn't far from somebody asleep under some kind of a pink blanket. The rats, the garbage, people living in the streets. It makes you think of the plague. It doesn't take much else. Just fleas and the right bacteria. See the city from a little distance. It's nothing but lights. It's a movie set. It's a poster to hang in your room. It's real enough. Men ask you for money in the street. Tell you at least they're not stealing. They thank you. They say God bless you if you don't give them something. It's a way of surviving. For a while. Remnants. Somebody, and all somebody owns maybe, trying to get some rest around 4 a.m. in Center City, Philly, look like nothing but cloth and a patterned paper bag full of more cloth. I can't see who's there folded up like that. Just the fabric store colors. Remnants. If you fall off the edge of the world, there's a routine you have to go through. You have to find a room full of orange plastic chairs and wait. And while it gets later, you find out if you're invisible. And then there's nobody but the night crew, emptying waste baskets and buffing the floor. And you can get up and walk out through the glass door without ever touching it. And then in the street, you're almost real for a minute in the cold before you start to disappear again, like a wisp of steam out of a manhole cover. And what you have to do next is find another warm place. Because if you don't, there's nothing to stop you from falling forever.
Yeah, that's Charlie Mosler reading some poems. I guess we'll take a little break and listen to some music from Frank Giasula, and then we'll come back and hear some more and maybe get you to chat a little bit. And this is WFMU in East Orange, New Jersey. And that's a cut from Frank Giasula album with John Davey on bass and Patrick Tamminen on drums. It's called Expedition. And I wish the audience could catch him at parties now, considering the advances he's made over that careful playing. We're here with Charlie Mosler, a poet from New Jersey, and it's starting to feel like late night with this poetry. I feel like I'm back on the midnight run with this late night stuff. So I can do another set. Okay. Here's some more poems.
Silent comedy. Days and nights fold themselves up, turn themselves inside out like novelty shop magic tricks, and disappear. And we stand around eating calendars, waiting for something to happen. You know, the universe is nothing but banana peels looking for a sidewalk. And what's coming next is another Monday, or something just like it. And out there is an orderly midnight sky full of banana peels trying to look like the fleur-de-lis on some classy wrapping paper. And here's the man coming down the sidewalk, all dressed up with his new straw hat. And now the banana peels are going to do some parlor tricks for any disinterested observer who happens to be standing around. Afterward. This is what happened to the kid who said the emperor wasn't wearing any clothes. He has a gas station on Route 22 in New Jersey. He wears black-rimmed glasses. His hair is going gray. The customers come in with their brand-new used cars and want him to tell them how smart they are. Sometimes they have to ask him 3 or 4 times, and then they wonder why they asked somebody who needs a shave all the time. Because rust is rust, and smoke is smoke, and there's nothing you can do with bad rod bearings but replace them, and get the crank ground too if it needs it. And that's all he knows. And that's how he got where he is.
And you're listening to WFMU in East Orange, New Jersey.
Slow poison. One day comes after another, like comic strips and freight cars. And there are ordinary things in your nightmares, just to make you feel as if you belong. And when your nightmares come for you, it'll probably be a plain day like the rest, with nothing much in the papers but an argument about landfills and zoning and aquifers. And even if there isn't anything in your nightmares going to get you, the calendar will. Or maybe something quieter yet. Maybe there's a nice young man with expensive glasses and styled hair and a 3-piece pinstripe suit who knows all about landfills and zoning and aquifers, and he knows exactly what his employers did that got something nasty into your well. And he isn't telling anybody. Maybe you'll never know what got you. January poem without snow. The weather washed the color out of this morning and left the stains, and right now, looking through this window, would you try dialing that number again, please? Telephone operators' voices are made of bowls of wax fruit. This dumb morning I don't have anything to say, and I'd like to explain that. Actually, I have a head full of sanitary landfill and no parking signs and used cars and a college education, and anyway, this time of year, backyards look like the anonymous dreams of canned vegetables. You were expecting something to happen. Okay. The FBI has your fingerprints, and right now somebody's likely inspecting your laundry under ultraviolet light, and guess who's had a look at your credit rating? And your social security numbers being checked with an electron microscope for mold spores. This is all routine, of course. May I see your license and registration? None of which is news. Still, theoretically, it's not so bad. As long as you don't think about it too much. News. Hanging on a clothesline against dim, rich blue, between buildings and shadows and 7 a.m., a calendar, and a newspaper, and a red and yellow taxi, a TV screen and a pot of coffee, a tablecloth and a wine stain and a traffic light, and a Mondrian linoleum floor. On the radio, the news says, an official source says, it never happened, and we are taking steps to see that it never happens again. Jury was out, and the bay is full of jukeboxes and candy wrappers. There aren't as many trees as there used to be, and the weather, plenty of people around. Full moon. Nothing's crazy wild as South Jersey pine trees, raggedy-jagged against the... Sometimes they burn, and the smell hangs in the damp nights afterwards. But nobody believes in ghosts. Color picture. On the boardwalk, at the north end of Seaside, where they collect your money, and locked gates and a chain-link fence, and something inside there that's worth it in the amusement business. Behind all that, there's the beach, and the Atlantic Ocean, and a few clouds, and the blue weekend sky, and then the rest of the universe. The shed's window is covered with weathered plywood, and this is what somebody wrote on it. Never enough time or space. That's all. Never enough time or space. Translucent clouds blowing past the moon. Over and over, a whippoorwill. Monotony. And your head says ditto and turns off. White fog would be better. At least you could imagine something you could live with. The store downtown keeps selling mirrors. You see yourself with oak and morocco, silver and jade, and then it doesn't work when you get home. You are driving through a pinball machine landscape. Through the glass window on top, it looks like a Monopoly board. And there's no way out. No way. Monte Carlo, 8 cylinders, power steering, power brakes, body fair, 78,000 miles, runs excellent. 2-bedroom ranch on quarter acre, attached garage. German Shepherd, male, wormed, all shots housebroken. Dinnerware, refrigerator, sewing machine, kitchen cabinets, bedroom set, baby clothes. 6-piece contemporary living room, stereo, 19-inch TV, mirror, vacuum cleaner, lawnmower. Firewood, antiques, oriental rug, wicker chair, glass, china, silverware, linens, brass bed. Lamps, jewelry, rings, figurines, imported vases, cameras, fantastic catalog, traditional recipes, electronic alarm, bills paid, fast credit, clear picture on every channel. Unusual items, government surplus, name brand tools, beer and wine making, jokes, novelties, free adult books. Lonely, depressed, discounts, ideas, inventions, new products, girls' gymnastics, money-making opportunities, psychic, detective course. Blank certificates, old gold, quicksilver, poems wanted, secret law cancels debts, venture capital, undeveloped land. Win lotteries. No investment. Quick cash. Deal professionally. Sell information. Import. Export. Identification card is guaranteed. Black magic. Second income. New luxury car. Buried treasure. $5,000 cash. Worldwide travel. Lovely girls. Discreet mail forwarding. Unspoiled beaches. Tropical sun. Sailing. Swimming. Gourmet food. Casinos. Nightlife. Soft music. And the finance company whispers, I love you. I'll follow you anywhere.
Yeah, it's Charlie Mosler reading some poetry. And you're going to be reading In Poison at the YWHA on Tuesday, January 13th. Coming up next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. That's at 760 Northfield Avenue in West Orange. And you can call 201-736-3200 for information. And the best thing about this is the price.
Thanks a lot.
Look at the price on here. $1. And that's only a suggested contribution. I mean, if you're really broke, I'm sure if you're really broke and you turn your pockets inside, I'm sure the organizer will let you in to listen to Charlie and Penny Harder, who is also reading that night. Yeah, the weather just does kind of average out, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you.
Especially at the shore.
Yeah, there's a few things hit me there, and you'll never know what got you. A little bit of justifiable paranoia in there. The pacing I wanted to mention, the pacing of these poems has to do with the fact that you often read these with bands.
Whenever I can. In fact, a few weeks ago I did 3 whole sets with Tom McDowell, a guitar player, at a little bar in New Brunswick, and it was just like being a singer with situation of a Friday night in a bar, and I just started doing things with Tom. We'd done this a few times before at that particular bar, which I guess I can mention, can't I?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Pizza Pino in New Brunswick, little tiny bar. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So every time I get a chance, I work with musicians.
Who themselves aren't working enough to want to take on a poet, take a poet around with them all the time.
Well, it used to be my own band, you know. When I was doing in the 1970s, when I was doing the college concerts, I put together pickup bands of name and semi-name musicians, including, Harry Leahy, Don Friedman, Vic Juris, Terry Silverlight. Yeah, pretty well-known players.
Teresa, the drummer, right?
That's right. That's Barry Miles' brother.
Oh, he is?
Mm-hmm.
I just played something.
Terry's a fine drummer.
Yes, it was a good album, too. It's a lot of night stuff here. You know, I was thinking the other day, you know, I went to the city. I've been to the city figure out, you've been to the city thousands of times. I've slept in the city. I've worked in the city. You know, I'm used to it. I'm still afraid of subways. Especially when you think that you're sitting in the subway car now and like 10 black kids are going to come out of one end and 10 white kids out of the other chanting Howard Beach, you know, and you're in the middle. But the other thing that all poets have in common, I think, when you go to New York City, is a note of what I saw here. If I'm at Penn Station and I see a midget sitting on the seat there, sitting cross-legged, wearing a cowboy hat, smoking 2 cigarettes at once, I have to look. I have to look at the guy. I can't be cool about that. I've got to look at this guy. And that's where these poems come from. You have to look.
Well, there's a funny story about that. When I did the one Entitlements, which is about the man we saw sleeping by the wheelchair, that was, as the poem says, on 8th Avenue right south of 30th. Mm-hmm. And we had just been leaving Planet, which is a recording studio. And Artie never noticed it. I was walking down the street with Artie, and he never noticed it.
And I'm always seeing things out of the corner of my eye that way. And by the way, secret of survival is no eye contact in the city.
You have to look without making the eye contact.
Exactly, yes.
Especially now on the subways where, you can't feed the world. I can't feed the world on my salary. And when you come up to a stop and some guy comes through shaking a can, and then the next stop he gets off, somebody else comes on and comes through shaking a can.
Recently I've found that they're quite gracious about being turned down. In fact, the one night, the one where I noticed everybody was saying God bless you when you turned them down, I gave some money to one guy, and 2 or 3 different people at the end of the block thanked me for giving him money, which I thought was really strange. I guess, as I say, I think it's part of survival. They're polite because it's a way that they stay alive. It's kind of frightening, though. Something else I thought was scary I saw in the paper a couple of weeks ago. 1 out of 5, I think it is, of the people who live in the streets have jobs. They just can't afford a place to live.
I can see, yeah, that's understandable.
Well, $1,000 a month is not an outrageous rent in New York for a studio apartment. I don't know who can afford that, but...
Well, I can't. That's why I'm not living. That's why I'm not living in New York City. Nor do very many people that I know who do art.
It helps to be in a rent-controlled apartment that you've had for 2 generations.
Yeah, and ecology. You're writing ecology poems now. This means you're getting up. This means you might be getting up in the morning. When I write at night also. And one of the nice things is that if I'm sitting up at 2 a.m. writing, I often figure that you're probably sitting up at 2 a.m. writing if you're not driving around New York City somewhere, coming from a gig or something.
Oh yeah, I write late at night. I also rehearse late at night. But the ecology stuff comes from living, well, okay. Where I live, the aquifer, which is where the water you drink comes from, is in limestone caves underneath. And somebody dumps some chemical one place, and it can pop up 4 miles away, and you're drinking it. And the last I heard, the drinking water in my town has to have a chlorinated hydrocarbon carcinogen filtered out of it. So, yes, I'm very sensitive to that.
Filtered out of it to standards,
exactly.
to EPA standards.
Yeah, and you often wonder what the filter is working like at the end of the month, or at least I do.
Right, yeah, if the guy's even there. Sometimes I noticed in the news the last few months they found absentee treatment plants where things go wrong, they don't find out about it for a few hours, which is fun when the well, it isn't what you see. I mean, the brown water is just that's just rust most of the time, but it's the stuff you don't see.
Water's frightening because, for instance, just in purifying water, I heard somebody on, I guess it was Philadelphia Public Radio, and man was discussing the problems of purifying water, and there's going to be 1 case of liver cancer per 1.5 million people just for using chlorine to purify water. Okay, because it forms, carbon tet or trichloroethylene or chloroform or one of those nasty things, and it's a carcinogen which gets at your liver. So they figure that the trade-off is a good trade-off because it saves a lot of people dying of something else. But it's not the most charming thought in the world when you take a glass of water. This is how we cheer up your audience, Bob.
Oh, they hear all this stuff on New Jersey Fight Back, which comes on at
but they don't hear poetry about
6 o'clock. Well, we're not supposed to be writing. That's what I was talking about before you came on. We're not supposed to be writing about this stuff because this is New Jersey and you, perfect together, and that's the code for all art these days. And we had a talk the other day where we mentioned that poetry is not real estate like art, which makes it tough for poets to
And you can't bet on it like horses.
You can't bet on it like horses. I went down the list of all the arts. I thought, well, dance, you have a good, powerful dance lobby, and there's a dance critic in the paper, and a lot of rich people go to see dance.
Yeah, Valerie Sudol.
Yeah.
The
right.
Star Ledger.
Right, and if you go to art, that's like betting on a long shot. You can bet on a long shot.
Oh, sure.
And if you get to photography, these are image makers. You can always use a good photographer if they're putting out the right image. Providing they aren't shooting realistic black and whites of Newark, in which case the only place they're ever going to show is in Newark. In fact, they just had a show in Newark where they wouldn't show that kind of work in Newark. And that art, and then I came to poetry, and I thought, well, who cares about poetry? We have no. All we do is talk. We should just talk louder, maybe.
Well, I have a theory about that, which I'm sure you know I do, but okay. First place, poetry's quick. A couple of weeks ago, Joey Weil introduced a poem, which he didn't read, which I thought was great, but he introduced a poem by saying, to make a long story short, and I thought that was the best introduction I could imagine, because that's what poems do. They tell a long story quickly. And everything else is done in a hurry these days. I mean, you're using all kinds of avant-garde film techniques in commercials, jump cuts and all kind of almost tachistoscopic speed. And poetry is a very rapid form of communication. And that's, I think, one of its greatest values.
Yeah, if it's telling a story. Doesn't have to tell a story.
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, Joey is a narrative poet, and there aren't too many narrative poems around. I don't think I have 4 or 5.
Yeah, you had poems there that were, and poems there that weren't. I was in an argument with someone a while back about that. I said, why do you always remember the plots of the poems? Like all poems don't have plots.
Oh, I heard that story. I heard that you wanted somebody to spend her entire life memorizing the poems in their entirety and giving up her own memories just to memorize that so that she'd have the complete and entire text of the poem, and the poem being the experience. The plot of the poem is not the experience, all of which is aesthetically completely valid and in terms of living your life totally impossible.
Well, since then I wrote a poem saying that I should do that. If I'm the one that...
Are you doing it, Bob?
No, I said I should empty my brain.
Notice the way the interviewee becomes the interviewer.
Yeah, I should empty my brain of all I know and fill it with the second verses of songs from before I was born.
Well, you just might end up... I mean, I have a terrible habit of recognizing tunes in the middle of the bridge. Saying, oh, I know what that song is, in the middle of the bridge, and having that kind of a memory is totally useless. There isn't a single thing I can think of that you can, put to use that way. But it's fun.
So, let's see. I'm going to talk a little bit more. I've got this lovely Wayne Smith album running on in the background. If you want to call up, so I'll take a break. If you want to call up and talk to the man himself, my godfather, as I refer. You're the only poet. When I got out of college, you're the only poet older than me that, with the exception of some New York poets I knew, seemed to be saying anything that mattered. So if you want to call up, you can call up 201-266-7900, and let's take a little break.
Hi, this is Joe Renner, and these are the Rixon tapes. Bob Rixon was a poet and broadcaster, a pioneer of freeform radio from 1981 at the FMU studios in New Jersey. He passed away on May 8th, 2014 at the age of 66. These tapes are a tribute to his work as a broadcaster and poet. Help this channel by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you very much.